Hey everybody, it's Joe, and are we calm? Okay, are we reasonable? Are we over all the mass hysteria about this whole Bambu Labs hullabaloo, huh? Okay, good. So for those who might not be familiar with the imagery that I'm evoking here, this is representative of the sword of Damocles, which is from a story or an allegory, I don't know, something where this guy named Damocles was envying the throne of the king. And the king decided, all right, let him have a shot at it. So he let Damocles sit in the throne, and Damocles was surrounded by all the opulence and wealth of being a king, but discovered that there was a sword hanging over his head by a single horsehair, and it kind of dulled the experience for him. Now, I want to be clear. My sword of Damocles is a representation of my relationship with bamboo, not the way that I see Bambu Labs in the community at large. Though, if somebody wanted to extend this metaphor to include that, I don't necessarily think that would be inappropriate. Now, mine is actually held up by twine, so I'm actually going to take it down before we continue, just in case. It's a nice sword. I don't want to damage it. Now, for those who might not be aware of what I'm talking about when I say this whole Bambu Labs thing, let me give a quick recap of the situation. Bambu Labs very publicly, very obviously broadcast their intent to change the way that prints would be sent to these 3D printers over the web. And they were doing so for reasons that they stated being security, that they wanted to have a more secure way to ensure that 3D prints started on this 3D printer do in fact come from you and couldn't possibly come from an outside source. However, this change from the protocol that they were using before means that certain third-party applications that were relying on that other way of doing things will no longer work going forward. And I'll tell you the truth, I'm not entirely happy about that because I have a Bamboo Touch on my P1Ss and I really, really like it. And I don't want to see that stop working. So I can understand people being a little bit upset about this. However, the criticism went way beyond just a little bit upset, and people were saying that obviously this means that Bambu Labs has intent to do mean, nasty, and horrible things that we don't want being done. And there's been kind of a problem about that. A lot of the criticism that people are leveling at this move, it comes in the form of, well, I know what they really mean. I know what they're actually trying to do, and what are you, a mind reader? How could you possibly know that that was their actual intent? It's unbased accusations that are designed to rile people up, get people scared, and drive up view numbers on YouTube. Now, admittedly, there is a large group of people who are looking for any reason to hate on Bambu Labs, either because they think that it'll do well for their numbers, or because they're upset at Bambu Labs existing and basically leapfrogging what their favorite 3D printer at the time was doing. And yeah, they just want a reason to hate, and you know, you're never going to be able to please those people. But things continued. Bambu Lab went out there and tried to smooth things over and say, no, guys, this is what we're trying to do. This is our reasoning behind it. Some things about that didn't quite go as smoothly as they wanted, so they changed it. And again, the critics jumped up and said, whoa, they changed what they said. They changed their end user agreement. And then they scrubbed the record so that we would not be able to go back and see what they previously said. They're trying to gaslight us. Maybe they're trying to gaslight us, or maybe there's another explanation that's a little bit more reasonable. Like, say, for instance, they weren't happy with the way that they conveyed it the first time, and so they wanted a mulligan, they wanted a do-over. They wanted to say, this is what we meant from the beginning. And you gotta keep in mind, these guys, they're not you. Just because they're not doing things the way that you would do them doesn't mean that they're doing them wrong. Heck, if you were in charge of a multi-million-dollar 3D printing industry, chances are you would make decisions differently than other people would say that you should do them too, because your goals are not necessarily their goals, right? I would say that generally speaking, a lot of these negative comments lack grace. A grace that I'm pretty sure that if you were in a similar situation, you would want people to extend to you. There is always multiple possible reasons for a thing to be, and you're picking the worst possible one, take a second, take a breath. Think, what else could this be? And think, yeah, that's not the way that I do it, but I can see why they're doing it. Now, if this is where it ended, I probably wouldn't have made this video, but this morning I got an email from ShareSale, who handles the affiliate links. In fact, you'll find a ShareSale affiliate link to Bambu Labs in this video and every video that I've made about Bambu Labs, because I'm making videos on YouTube. That's one of the ways that we can afford to do this. So I got this email from ShareSale, and what it said kind of made me do a double take. Bambu Labs is changing the terms of their affiliate program, and because it's through ShareSale, ShareSale was very transparent about the change. They said, this is what it used to say, this is what it now says. What it used to say was, we just want you to make honest reviews and be honest with your viewers. And what it now says is, we only want you to make reviews that cast Bambu Labs in a positive light. And oh, I was like, is this the moment that I cut that thread? But fortunately, I took this email and I shared it with members of my community on Discord, discord.3dpprofessor.com, where we have a great community of people doing great things with 3D printing and helping others do great things as well. Hope to see you there. But the members of my Discord kind of talked me down real quick, and they said, first of all, is this not the way that it was before? This is kind of the way that we expect Chinese companies to run things. And secondly, yeah, I mean, of course, they don't want to pay money to people who are saying bad things about them. There's a lot of people saying bad things about them right now. And I went, yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense. For a moment, for just a moment, I lacked that grace that I just said that the rest of the community lacked. But by taking a moment, taking a breath, and sharing it with others, I was able to get that grace back. And while honestly, I really like the way that their affiliate program was. I really like their focus on honesty. And I like that Bambu Labs was secure enough in themselves that they could actually say that. I understand why they would want to change it now, especially in light of all the negative things that are being said about them. And the thing is, if Bambu Labs does decide to revoke my affiliate status because they believe that this video isn't casting them in a positive enough light, well, so be it. It's not going to change the way that I do things, but I also don't try to capitalize on negative reviews and negative emotions. I simply try to be honest and tell things the way that they are. But another thing that bugs me about the community coming up with the worst possible ideas of what this could mean, about what Bambu Labs could actually be doing, is that it ignores everything that Bambu Labs has done. If you want to know what Bambu Labs is planning to do in the future, take a look at what they have done in the past. So let's review the history of Bambu Labs 3D printers. We don't have to go back very far. Just a few years ago, they released their debut 3D printer, a 3D printer that was super well engineered, introduced new features that had not been seen in any commercial 3D printer up to that point, was super easy to use, and was a price that, quite frankly, at the time, the community should have gone, nah, that's too expensive. I could buy 5 Ender 3s for that price. And quite frankly, I heard at the time, and yet still, somehow, they managed to carve out a niche in this market. In fact, more than a niche, they were stealing a slice of everybody's pie. Because despite the fact that for years I've been telling people that ease of use should absolutely be a consideration in the 3D printer that you buy, somehow or another, Bambu Labs was the 3D printer that got through to people with that message, and people finally said, ooh, this is easy to use, and we want it. And I don't know why they got to be the ones that finally got that message through, but I am so grateful that people are finally judging 3D printers on that metric. They redefined the home 3D printing market, and in the process, everybody else in that market either needed to catch up or drop out, and there have been a lot doing both that are scrambling to try to get to where Bambu Labs was the moment that they stepped foot in here. It's remarkable. And yet everything that Bambu Labs has done, every choice that they've made that's gone into this machine has been for one purpose, and that is to bring 3D printing to more people. And they have succeeded in that brilliantly. They followed up with the A1 Mini, a cheap 3D printer that had a lot of the same features and was just as easy to use. People said this thing's too expensive. They made a cheaper version. The A1 Mini is too mini. Fine, we'll come up with a better version. They are making 3D printing for you, for everybody, and they are trying to make it available to everybody. So when we go back and look at what Bambu Labs has done, let's remember what they have done. They have made 3D printing more available to people, and that's a good thing. Now, have they been perfect at it? Has there been no missteps whatsoever? No, of course not. They've gotten a few things wrong. There were things that the community found in their system that wasn't correct. They had one huge incident where they accidentally started everybody's 3D printer at once. But every time that they've made a mistake, they've owned it and they've done their best to make amends. And while those amends haven't always been fully satisfactory in everybody's mind, the fact of the matter is they own their mistakes, even when they make them, and that is good and honorable. So in light of everything that Bambu Labs has actually done, I don't understand how people can think that they're going to be doing the things that they're being accused of possibly being able to do in the future. It's absolutely ridiculous. And what's worse, if half of these ideas that people are saying that I know what they're actually trying to do, if half of them were done, it would be financial suicide. People would stop buying Bambu Labs 3D printers. We'd have people dropping the sword of Damocles on them, wrecking them and throwing them away. People would stop using Bambu Labs 3D printers if these things were true. And you know what I think is interesting? A lot of these people who are saying this is what they're planning on doing are still using the printers. They haven't stopped using it themselves, and even more, people in their comment section are like, well, I guess I'm going to just have to find a different way to use this 3D printer. If you don't like what they're doing, guys, don't use the printer. Don't buy the printer. Also, I've seen a lot of comments that were like, well, I was going to buy one, but now I'm not going to. Were you really? At this point, were you really? Because a lot of people, I feel like that comment is just disingenuous. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Now, that said, there are things about this situation that even I have to address, and so I want to address the rest of this video to Bambu Labs directly. Bambu Labs, buddy, you know I love you. You know I support you. And you and I both know that I don't support you because you're sponsoring me, despite the fact that so many people in the comments are saying that you do. I mean, if you were sponsoring me, I wouldn't be making videos in the corner of a rundown garden shed. No. I support you because of what you've done. You saw that list of things that you have done. I didn't even mention the AMS system, bringing multicolor 3D printing in a way that actually works and that, quite frankly, nobody else in the industry has yet been able to duplicate reliably. You guys are great. You've done great things, and I appreciate that. But this move that you're about to do, I question. There's a lot of people who are saying negative comments about this, and I hope that you're listening to them because, yes, while a lot of their comments are baseless accusations, they're saying things that they absolutely should not be saying. They are occasionally actually making a good point. For instance, 3D Musketeer mentioned that this move, which ostensibly, as you have stated, is to increase security, is more than industry standard and more than anybody else feels is necessary. You state that, you know, you could have malware on your computer past the local area network, past the firewall, that could hijack the 3D printer and use it to do terrible things. And you're right, but that's not your responsibility. That's my land. If I let something in, that's my fault. That isn't necessary. I mean, don't just look at the haters and dismiss them. Read the room. This is not something that people want. And more than that, you are breaking things that people rely on that are already working. These third-party solutions aren't there to take a piece of your pie. They're there to help make your 3D printers better for people. I still had to buy this 3D printer before I could put the Bambu Touch on it, right? If you ask me, I would say, don't do this. Don't add this layer of security that you don't need. And I'll give you a reason that you shouldn't do it for you. It's going to cost you money. In fact, quite frankly, I'm not sure why you stream every print through your web service right now. That means that you have to maintain your servers. That means that's more server load. As you get more and more successful, that's even more server load that you're going to have to maintain. And if that ever goes down, that's more service that you're going to need to do to help people get back up and running. It's a headache that I don't see that you need to be doing. Now, yes, I recognize the value of doing things through a web service because I have one of your 3D printers at my makerspace across town. And I can get up in the morning, go into my computer, start a print, and then go into the makerspace, and it's already up and running and going. And I really, really do like that. But when the 3D printer is on the same LAN as that computer, I don't understand why you don't just beam it straight across the LAN. The files will get there faster, they will get there more reliably, and you don't have to have additional server load. By making every 3D print file have to stream through your print services, you're doing something. There's a saying in English called putting all your eggs in one basket. That means that there's just one terrible disaster away from all your eggs being lost in a moment, and that's not necessarily the best idea. Now, of course, that analogy doesn't quite work because you are, I'm sure, having redundant servers and making sure that you can have as much uptime as possible. But you can't accomplish 100%. Why not just drop that? In fact, my recommendation would be to make web monitoring an option, and here's why. If when people are uploading their 3D print and the 3D printer is on the same network, there should be a little checkbox on their print settings that says enable web monitoring, and they should have to click that in order to do it. Or you can have it clicked on by default like you do for some of the other options, that's fine. But as long as you make it an option that the user has to choose, then the user and the community can no longer complain that, oh, they're streaming every print through their web service. No, they chose to stream it through your web service. And I would say in that case where they say enable web monitoring and the print is on the same network, still just beam it over the LAN, but send whatever information you need to the web service to let the web service know that this printer has started a print so that they can monitor it on their phone while they're at work. But if you make this an option that the user has to choose, then the user can't complain that they don't have the option. And granted, what will happen in this case most of the time is people will still choose that option. In fact, what I foresee happening is that this whole drama is going to have very little impact on your bottom line. I still see Bambu continuing to grow because these are still some of the best 3D printers out there. They're fast, reliable, well-engineered, all that stuff. And so you guys, you're doing good. You're doing really good. I would just say, in the case of this one thing, maybe think a little bit harder about whether you actually want to do it. Because while it is going to make things more secure, it's also going to be more work for you that you really don't have to do. Now, if you don't do these things, am I going to stop supporting Bambu Labs? Am I finally going to cut that thread? No, guys. I trust you. I love you. I've seen what you've done in the past, and I know that you're going to keep doing that in the future. So just keep doing the awesome things that you're doing. But at the same time, when people are being critical of you, maybe take that criticism with a grain of salt and see if maybe there isn't somewhere hidden in there a gem of knowledge that you can apply. It's a bit like digging through the garbage to find a gift that somebody's given you, but I know that you guys will grow more, and I know that you guys can do it. Bambu Labs, thank you for everything that you've done. And if you've watched this video so far, thank you very much for watching. I want to thank you very much for watching, and I want to remind you that you are a child of God. And you too, everybody at Bambu Labs. So take care of yourself, and if you can, someone else too. I'll see you next time. Oh, no.